All right, guys, we have another woman in a position of authority over children, molesting children. And why am I bringing this up? It has less to do with what she's done and more to do with men trying to excuse her behavior, right? So we'll get into this. This guy here is making excuses for this woman. Let's get into this.
After the boy's mother contacted police, they set up a three-way call where Shires admitted to the sexual assaults. Shires spoke on the phone with the boy's mother as police secretly listened in to her confession. That led to her.
Now, before we go any further, I want you to take a good look at this girl. This is a pretty young woman who is obviously just a normal person in every other regard, right? This guy is going to try and call her crazy since she is not mentally ill in any way. She's just a child molester.
Her arrest in October 2023 and initial charges of sexual contact with a minor. Shires was released on 50.
There's her with her boyfriend and her dog, a very ordinary woman in every regard, right? There's no excuses for what she's done.
$1,000 bond. But that's not where the story ends. There's multiple facets to this case because there was this alleged relationship happening for some time. But then after Peyton Shires was arrested, she was arrested again. And this is because she went to the victim's home with a gun and then was suicidal at the front door. There were hours-long standoff outside of this home.
She wasn't suicidal. She was playing the victim, which is, again, not a sign of mental illness. This is someone who's doing what she can to get out of it.
Have you ever heard of anything like this?
I've not seen a case or heard of a case where an alleged child molester would grab a deadly weapon and then go to the home of the parent of the child allegedly molested and threaten to kill herself. The reason
why you haven't is because you've dealt with male pedophiles all this time, child molesters. They know they can't get any sympathy. This woman knows she's a pretty young female. She knows she can get all kinds of sympathy. She's going to get sympathy from you. So this guy is talking out of both sides of his mouth, everyone.
why we don't see that often is because it's adding fuel to the fire. I mean, she's already being charged with sexual assault of a minor, and now she takes a firearm to the parent's home. I think that really reveals her desperation. She got caught, and it's what we call the art of deflection in the litigation world, where she was trying to deflect, right? And think about
exactly, she's trying to deflect. Exactly. So keep that in mind, everyone, as this guy keeps going.
What she did. She was now portraying herself as the victim. Oh my God, I'm going to have to commit suicide if you talk about this, or if you tell on me, if you cooperate with prosecutors, I might have to kill myself. I mean, think about that. That's another mental psychotic disorder, I think.
So there you go. You see, this woman, this criminal, trying to get out of it. Well, she isn't just a criminal, right? She's got to be this is psychosis, right? So this guy's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. He just mentioned what her motivations actually were, to get the heck out of it, to try and garner sympathy. So now he's trying to, frame her criminal behavior as psychosis to get her off. This guy here is men's enemy.
That she's suffering from as well.
This incident led to additional charges for Shires, including intimidation to a victim or witness and discharging a firearm, as the gun she brought to the victim's home went off. It seems to me that these two...
There it is. And again, take a look at this. This is a standard, ordinary couple, right? There's nothing that suggests, there's no way she could have gotten here if she was mentally ill or unstable to begin with, right? This is simply a criminal, everyone. That's it.
Two things paired together led to the plea deal. So that corroborating evidence that we...
Okay, I got to correct myself. Guys will take anything. So she could be mentally ill and get this guy and get this good life and have children. The thing is, it's obviously this woman isn't, right? There's been no behavior before this to suggest she was mentally ill.
Spoke of, and then these additional charges that came when she had this weapon outside of their home. Do you think that the plea deal was the correct route to take?
Given everything we're talking about, you have text messages that are confirming the sexual encounters. You have videotape. Where do you ever get videotape of a sexual encounter between an adult female and a 13-year-old boy?
There you go. And he's 13, not 15 and 60. He's a real child, right? And goes to show you, she took the plea deal because it was the smartest thing she could do, because it was a no-brainer. It was an open and shut case.
Hardly ever see that. So prosecutors had that in their backpack. And then you add on to that the fact that Shires ends up going to the home. It's the worst thing she could have ever done. Going to the home.
No, she took a risk. This woman knew that people would give in to women's victimhood, right? So she took a chance.
Home of the young boy with the gun and threatening to kill herself. That reach, by the way, that re-traumatized the 13-year-old. It traumatizes the parent, but that made things even worse. So that's why I believe that Shires ended up copping a plea deal now, because who knows? The further this case could have gone along, they might have found out more damaging information about Shires. Maybe they found more text messages. Maybe they found something on her phone. Maybe they found another videotape.
They wouldn't need to find more, Guy. They already had her.
And maybe the charges get elevated. Maybe she's looking at more jail time. So I think what her lawyers did is they cut off the bleeding. Yeah, you caught us. This was bad. Let's try to minimize the damage.
As part of the plea deal Shires made in late May, she was found guilty of 4 counts of unlawful sexual misconduct with a minor, 1 count of inducing panic with a firearm specification, and 1 count of intimidation to a victim or witness. A second intimidation charge was dropped, as was the discharging firearm charge, as investigators later determined Shires hadn't purposely fired the weapon.
Every photo they show you, does she look insane? No. She's simply an ordinary woman whose turn on is children, minors, and she went for it and she got caught. That's all there is to this story. If she was a man, you wouldn't see any of this.
Weapon at the boy's home. Moving forward, she has sentencing ahead of her, and she could face up to 28 years behind bars.
Now, to me, that's severe. I've said this in other videos. You know, these people, all you're going to do is make them worse. Put them behind bars, yes, for 4 or 5 years, and keep them away from children. That's it. Now, this guy, this is why I'm hoping you guys are staying on until this point. This guy is going to, again, speak out of both sides of his mouth. He'll eventually talk about how it's too bad this woman can't get employed, right? That's his big concern.
What do you feel about that sentence? Do you think that the judge will lean toward the lengthier sentence or a lesser sentence because this is her first offense?
Yeah, I think the judge is going to lean toward a lesser sentence. I have, over the last decade, I've seen a lot of child sexual abuse cases, and I have been bitterly disappointed with the length of jail time that these molesters are given. It is
These female molesters, that's what he's missing out. Because the male molesters, they get it.
staggering, especially out here in California. I mean, I had a case of a teacher at an elementary school years ago, and he was indicted on molesting 7 or 8 young girls, and he got 25 years to life. Are you serious? 25 years to life? That means he could be out on parole after about 18 years.
Now, see, so he's talking about a male child molester, and all of a sudden, 25 to life isn't enough, right? And of course, he brings up that he had multiple, right? This guy was guilty. So this guy, this scumbag here, is painting the male pedos as people who should be destroyed. But this female, he's going to back off on her.
are you kidding me? And by the way, there were more kids that he molested. The indictment only had 7 or 8. Here you've got, and again, I'm not minimizing what she did.
Yes, you are, you lying sack of shit. You are minimizing. That's why you brought up a male and then said he had all these cases, right? That's what he's here to minimize, so he's lying.
It's probably her first criminal offense.
There
Probably
you go. It's her first criminal offense. Please let her off. Now, 25 to life, even if he's writing at 18 years, the guy's going to come out and he's going to have nothing, right? Kids, if in other words, 18 years is from the time someone's born to when they're a young adult, right? So he's put away forever, as far as I'm concerned, right? But now he's arguing against her being put away forever, right?
her first offense involving a sexual nature against a minor. The court's going to look at her job history. She's got a responsible job. She was working.
So what? That's what they say to all these male molesters, right? This guy was a anchor to the community and he has a responsible job. He could have been a doctor and everyone needs doctors. You see, it doesn't work. But this clown, who am I kidding? This asshole is now protecting this disgusting child predator simply because she's female and that's it.
As a social worker. And again, you've got the mental health component too. I think that's going to have to be looked at by the judge before.
No, it doesn't. None of these male child molesters are given a break because they were mentally ill. None of them. And this woman isn't mentally ill. So this guy's making excuses. He told a bold-faced lie. I'm not making excuses for her, but here's an excuse for her. Look at this woman's face. There's never a picture that suggested she was mentally ill. She's just turned on by children.
Or he issues a sentence, wouldn't you think? I mean, here you got a woman going to the boy's home with a gun, threatening to kill herself. She has some mental health issues.
No. She took a risk. She took a bet hoping to get people to let up on her. That's not mental illness. That's someone who's very aware and knows what's going on.
I think need to be flushed out before she goes to sentencing. And by the way, her lawyer, Shire's lawyer, might argue that because of the mental health issue that she had, he or she will argue for leniency.
She doesn't have a mental health issue, you liar. She wasn't diagnosed with anything before then. It's obvious what's going on.
I wouldn't be surprised if Shire's lawyer has Shire's examined by a forensic psychologist, for example, to go through what's going on in her mind, why she would do this to a 13-year-old. Why
she did it because she is turned on by them, just like the male pedophiles. Right? So this guy who's not making excuses is full of excuses.
allow videotape? Why text? Why go to the home with the gun? Is there some kind of underlying mental health issue? A good criminal defense lawyer is going to delve into that and bring that to the judge at sentencing. And if her lawyer...
Well, a good one's going to bring it for her because she's female. They don't do it with men because they know it doesn't work, right? They know what's going to work for her because here you are. It's working for her. She's a pretty young girl. You don't care about the children.
does that, and I think you're going to see a shorter sentence. I mean, we have a problem across the country with prosecuting child molesters. Like you said, we finally have corroborating evidence. Let's go forward. We don't want to rely on a 13-year-old on the stand.
With prosecuting female. Because you know something that he's leaving out, everyone, is the lynch mobs. Because how many male child molesters get zapped by people like a lynch mob before the police even get to them? And he doesn't get jailed, he gets beaten to death. Something that never happens to these women.
But more important than that, I just think across the board, across our country, these jail terms are too short for sexual abusers of minors. I wouldn't be surprised if she got a jail sentence of somewhere, between 5 and 8 years, and then she's eligible for parole after 3 or 4 years, because this is
Well, that's true. That's what usually happens. That's the usual time for these female pedophiles. But then he's going to turn around and start talking about her job, her ability to get a job. Why? If he's so worried about having her off the streets, you'll see.
her first offense, and because of perceived mental health issues. And look, the fact that she had a good job with the county as a social worker will be percolating in the mind of the judge. The judge might be thinking, should we allow this woman to be rehabilitated? I know out here in California, and especially here in LA County, our district attorney believes in rehabilitation. So shorter jail terms, let's work on rehabilitating the perpetrator to get he or she back out into
She back out. They don't do it for men. For men, they put on a registration for the rest of their lives.
into society to be productive, rather than putting somebody behind bars for 25 or 28 years.
In all, Shires could face 28 and a half years behind bars, but that's not all. Another aspect of this case, too, is that she'll have to register as a Tier 2 sex offender for 25 years, at least according to the reporting that I've seen. So how would that label affect Peyton Shires in the future?
Yeah, Peyton Shires has a death sentence if she is required to register as a sexual offender. How
Now, notice what did I tell you about this guy speaking on both sides of his mouth? Right? It's a death sentence. So sending her away for 25 to life, that's not a death sentence. But not being able to get employment, that's a different story. That's so much worse. So see how this guy turns the table? He's trying to say he stands up for what's right, but the whole time he's for letting this woman off.
how in the world is she going to go out and get a job? Think
And someone even called it in the comment section. So why do we care about her getting a job? Right? So he, like I said, he wants to lock her up for years and years and years and years, but she's got to be employed, right? Why is a person going to worry about employment if you're locked up to the point that you're retirement age before you get out? Right? And here is what I wanted to bring up to you guys too. I did a video on this young lady before. This is Tina Terlato. She didn't molest her children, but she murdered her child, right? There's her family, there's her sweetheart of a little girl, and she murdered her. And guess what? She got a job. Terlato's new role sees her as helping to design and construct the banners players run through and before games, a job that often includes child volunteers, right? It is not known how someone with the convictions like Terlato was able to obtain a working with children permit. Well, it's pretty obvious. The people that hired her didn't care that she murdered a child, right? She's female. They want her around, right? Which are only handed to people with no prior offenses, but they're lying. They mean it's only handed to men who don't have any offenses. Women, they don't care about what they've done. In a letter sent to Essendon, it is to its members over the hiring of Terlato, the club said criminal convictions don't prohibit people from becoming members of the club, which is a lie. If she was a man, they would not accept her. They'd say, you're a criminal, we don't want you. But here she's looking pretty good. So they said, we want a pretty young woman around. And we don't care that she murdered this helpless, innocent child, right? So guys, realize what's going on here and what this guy's up to.
think about it. Employers are required to do background checks on all of their employees. And if she tries to go to apply to get a job anywhere, especially a government job with a county or a city or the state or even the federal government, this is going to pop up on her record. So I don't know how she's ever going to be around students again. Let's talk about
Who cares? Why would you want her around students? So she prefers She's turned on by children and you want her back in? After going on about how the sentences are too short?
About that. No school, no social services agency is going to hire her to be around students.
Okay, so what? Get a job without it.
Why? Because now what she's done has put potential employers at risk in a civil forum. So whenever we go,
See how he's doing it, guys? How this scumbag is doing it? You see, let's think about the employers, right? She could be hired by someone and then someone will sue the employer. So we can't punish her like we do with all these male child molesters. That's what he's saying. This guy's speaking out of both sides of his mouth.
go after, when there's a perpetrator of a minor, we typically go after the employer in a civil court. We go after who hired her. We argue they didn't do an adequate background check. And in this case with Shires, they didn't properly supervise her.
So what's your argument, dude? We know what it is. We can't put this pretty girl on the sex offenders list. We can't protect children from her because, think of the businesses. Think of the business owners, right? So guys, recognize a scumfuck when you see one. That's what this guy is. This jackass, this woman worshiping piece of filth, pretending at the first that he actually cared. And now he's showing his true stripes. So I just want you guys to know what this video is about, right? It's about the fact that society does not want to punish women for child molestation or child murder in that case, or anything. We got to fight against that. We got to say, no, these women are not better than us guys. Whatever punishment are being meted out to men who commit these crimes, we want them for the girls. And if you feel it's so wrong for the girls, then give the same treatment to the guys. Right? It's that simple. I'm talking about equality under the law. Now I'll end it here. But by the way, screw you, asshole.